Hello and welcome to another episode of Issues and Insights. I'm Bryce Shoemate from Hardin County Government, and today we're doing things a little different because we're in a totally different world right now. And so we are doing this virtually. We actually are usually in Hardin County Educational TV studio when we do our Issues and Insights show, but today we are carrying on with several of our guests that are going to be carried through with the help of Kentucky Heartland's Greg Milby to facilitate this and get us through our virtual interview today. So I'm going to start off this morning with our Hardin County Judge Executive, Daniel London. And Daniel, I'm going to turn this over to kind of let you introduce our folks and tell everybody kind of what we're doing here this morning.
Thanks, Bryce. I appreciate it. Thanks for the promotion. I'm not Judge Executive yet, but it's deputy. Give you a hard time. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Heartland Communications for giving us a lending hand today, particularly Greg Milby, great friend of the community, great friend of Hardin County government, a friend of all of us, and we certainly appreciate his help. As Bryce outlined, we're doing this virtually today. Has its challenges, but we're going to get there. We have to be agile and adaptable in today's time, and we're certainly showing that we can do that today. We think this is vitally important to our community to make sure that we get the word out about what's going on the financial front. As you know, there's recent legislation passed that gives a lending hand to all of our citizens in our community. And we want to make sure that we do our part to get the word out. And so that's the purpose of today. Just a little housekeeping. Bryce and I are going to moderate today, so we'll be pitching out some questions. We're also going to monitor Facebook Live to ensure that we capture all your live questions. So I want to encourage all viewers, please submit your questions live as we can get that to our panel. If you see Bryce or I look away, it's because we're distracted. We're trying to make sure that we monitor and capture all your questions so we can feed it to our panel. We have some great special guests joining us today. We have 5 financial institutions in our community represented. I want to make sure everyone understands we invite all of our financial institutions here locally, but as you understand, particularly in today's world, we can't get everyone on a specific time on a specific day. So because of scheduling conflicts, if you see that your financial institution isn't represented here today, it's because of a scheduling conflict, not because that they weren't invited or didn't care or didn't want to be on. It's not that at all. Again, we want to highlight the benefits of the CARES Act, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. We have Congressman Brett Guthrie with us today, which we are emphatically proud of. Appreciate him taking his time to join us. So we're going to go through and talk about this legislation and how it impacts you, particularly our frontline folks in the finance industry that are going to make this happen. So we're going to get started this way. We're going to ask each participant to introduce themselves and give 2 or 3 minutes about their financial institution and what they're doing to help our community right now. We're going to start off ladies first with Ms. Marilyn Ford.
Thank you, Daniel, and good morning, everyone. It's absolutely an honor to be here this morning, participate in this discussion. My name is Marilyn, City President of West Banco of the Heartland region in Kentucky. Just a little bit of myself and the bank. I've been in banking for 38 years, which is basically my entire adult life and career. Almost all of that time has even been spent in the same building on Dixie Highway in Los Angeles. So I've been a part of the West Banco family since August of 2018, and West Banco is a large community bank, $15.7 billion. We're located in 6 states, a strong institution, and we had a birthday in February. We turned 150 years old, so it's an old, stable, and good institution. We're going to talk more about the assistance programs that we have available for borrowers as we go throughout the discussion. So just know that our programs are pretty extensive, and they particularly in the business, and they go down the sector. So I'll save that part for later, but we have programs for both business and personal available in addition to SBA 7A P3 programs that I'm going to be discussed later. The 2 things I want to highlight that we have that I'm just so proud of is some things I think that's very helpful during this COVID-19 pandemic. And that is initially we announced through our Community Development Corporation that we are making $350,000 in grants available to nonprofits that are adversely impacted by COVID-19. This will help our communities tremendously. Nonprofits have a higher demand at this time and less revenue, and they need assistance. So that's something that our bank is doing. I do know we had more than a dozen nonprofits here in the Heartland already apply, and more than 140 at last count across our company's footprint. So we're glad to do that. In addition to that, Todd Clausen, our president and CEO, just recently shared we had $200,000 set aside to help celebrate our 150th anniversary. And he recognized immediately that those funds, it would have had a good celebration of such a milestone, but it's needed back in our market. And he released $200,000 back into our markets for the markets to determine where are the greatest needs and to use those funds in that way. So over $500,000 released back into our markets. And of course, that includes the Heartland region being so vested and love our community. I'm so grateful for that. The second thing that we bring to the table, I think, that in addition to the assistance programs we'll talk about, is customer access without physically coming to the bank. Customers can apply for loans online. They can open accounts online. In addition to doing internet banking and bill pay, telephone access, ATMs, drive up, that sort of thing. So the technology aspect that we can bring as a larger community bank has just been a blessing. We obviously didn't roll those things out thinking there was going to be a pandemic, but it's something that I feel like that being part of a larger organization, that has helped us. And I'm just very grateful that we're able to do the things that we are doing to help our community. And I'll save the assistance part of the discussion for later on in the panel, but really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to be a part of this group. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. I appreciate that. Next, continue with ladies first, Dina London.
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm Dina London. I'm the president and CEO at Magnolia Bank. We just celebrated our 100th birthday last year. We have banking centers in Hardin and LaRue County, and then we also have loan production offices located throughout the United States, over 15 of those. We are about a $350 million institution. So, and I, like Marilyn, have spent my adulthood in banking. So most of that has been here at Magnolia, where we have worked to serve our local communities. We've been an SBA approved lender for years. So we already have a team working on the options of the recently approved changes to their programs. We expect the initial allocation of funding to go quickly, so we know time is of the essence. And so our team has been working diligently, researching, participating in all of the information that's out there to make sure that we are aware of all of the things that are going with that. The biggest thing we want some of our customers to know is that we're still fully here for everybody. We do have restricted lobby access. Part of our pandemic planning, early on, we started those efforts and felt like we needed to protect our customers and our employees. So we do have the restricted access, but virtually, electronically, everything is still there. We've kept our staff in the banking centers to help make sure we're answering calls. We're able to give you assistance wherever that's needed. So even if some of our faces aren't being seen, then it'll be some of the same voices that you might get on the phone. We've been careful to stay in touch with our community via social media to make sure you are still feel our Magnolia way. And we've also been trying to share and post resources that are available. Social media can be full of information and you may miss stuff. So we make sure if there are posts with Hardin Memorial or even any of the other local agencies around here, that those get shared. We also posted some information for some financial literacy resources for people who are having to teach their children at home, just as an effort to try to work through that and give you some tools there on that material. So if you are doubling as a teacher during this crisis, then we're just trying to help in that arena as well.
Great. Thank you, Dina. Appreciate that. Mr. Josh Hubbard.
Yes, thank you again, too. Again, I'm Josh Hubbard. I'm president of West Point Bank. We have 5 branches throughout Hardin and LaRue County, West Point, Radcliffe, Elizabethtown, Glendale, and Upton. We too, a lot like Dina and Maryland with what they're doing at their institutions, just trying to get out in front of these unprecedented times. We understand there's a lot of uncertainty, some fear out there, a lot of unknowns, just trying to be proactive with our customers, reach out to them, anything we can do to help them financially. We've got a lot of tools in the toolbox there that we're trying to do. We are too restricted lobby, so we're drive-through only. Would encourage you to go to our mobile app, our ATMs that accept deposits, our website. We are here, normal banking hours, again, just restricted access to the lobby, but our drive-through is fully functional. If you need anything, please feel free to call any of our officers, any of our branches. And again, just really trying to be proactive and help our customers in any way that we possibly can.
Great. Thank you, Josh. Mr. Springsteen. I think you're muted, Ray.
Oh, thanks.
There you go.
My name's Ray Springsteen. I'm with Abound Credit Union. We serve about 110,000 Kentuckians between Louisville and Bowling Green. A couple things. One of the things we tried to do right away was, similar to others, is we wanted to make sure we were ensuring the safety of team members and members. But we expanded drive-up hours. We wanted to make sure we were serving members in that way to be able to help them be able to access the credit union. Certainly have all the technology as well, and that's being used heavier than ever before. A couple of things. I think that we were focused on right from the beginning to help members. The one was recognize or focus on their health, focus on their family. For us, we wanted to make sure they had the opportunity to defer loan payments. We have about $1.2 billion in loans in the community, and it was an opportunity to be able to help members defer loan payments up to 90 days. We started that last Friday. We've deferred about $8 million in loan payments and loans already, and wanted to make sure we were making a difference there. On top of that is those that, if there is a need for a new loan, we'll defer those loan payments for the first 90 days. And on top of that, we have members that heavily use CDs at the credit certificates of deposits at the credit union. And so if there was a need to be able to pull those deposits out, it was making sure those are penalty free. And we're really making sure that in time when people have some of their most needs, to make sure they have access to the credit union to be able to defer payments and to make sure they're protecting their family and their health.
Great. Thank you, Ray. Mr. Dan Logston.
Thanks, Daniel. I'm Darren Logston, and I work for Wilson Weir Bank, and I'm vice president here in our Vine Grove office. Been here, the bank's been open since about 1865, so we've been here about 155 years. We're located in Nelson, Hardin, the Litchfield area, and Jefferson County. We as most of you all said, from the beginning, of course, we had to close our lobby, but we have several options for you out there. You can contact us online. You can call us. We're still open with full hours. We're just trying to reach out. The first thing I did was starting to reach out to my customers before they called me, to touch base with small businesses to see what we could do automatically to help. And I encourage any businesses out there that we have to call, because we're open. We're deferring loan payments if you need it. We're trying to work with you in any way we can, and also try to keep you healthy. So a lot of the things that the other banks mentioned, they're right at the top of the list. And I appreciate you for letting me be on the panel with you, and just thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. As I mentioned at the top, we have a very special guest with us today, and that's U.S. Representative Brett Guthrie. And I have to say, Congressman Guthrie is very engaged in our district. He's a member of the minority leadership, Republican leadership in Congress, and very effective for us. And we appreciate all he does for our citizens and our businesses. And Congressman Guthrie, you just got back from D.C., so we appreciate you joining us. You took a vote on a very important piece of legislation a few days ago.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here. And I kind of like just to highlight it and say what's happening. And one, it's just amazing. It seems like a lifetime ago, but just actually a few weeks ago, they were announcing the Fifth Corps coming, and that's still on moving forward. Our Defense Department still has its mission and is still moving forward. So that's a great thing for Fort Knox, which means it's a great thing for Hardin and surrounding counties. So looking forward to seeing that continue. So people just know those things are continuing. Just really quick, I'm on the Energy and Commerce Committee, which is healthcare. So I know we're not talking on the healthcare side. I just want to, when people are looking at a lot of numbers that are coming out, you see Dr. Fauci, Dr. Bricks, those are people that we deal with every day from our committee. And yesterday, I think we had 811 deaths reported, up from 574 the day before. So we haven't peaked. People say, what do we look for when we see these numbers? It takes about 14 days to incubate in some circumstances. And then people who are in ICU are usually in 7 to 10 days. So we're just getting to where the social distancing should start having an impact. So we should be looking within the next week to see the numbers come down. That's why the president had to extend it to April the 30th. Hopefully and prayerfully, we'll get to that point within the next few days and start seeing the improvement. And that will start relieving the other pressure that we're here talking about. It's a health crisis, but it's also an economic crisis. And that's what the bill that we're going to talk about was focused on, the economic side of it. We had a previous bill to help our hospitals with money to get some of the issues that you hear about addressed. But we're looking at small businesses. It was a massive bill that goes anywhere from the largest companies in the world to the smallest businesses in your community. And I want to focus on the small business side of it. And just in a couple of ways. One, unemployment insurance, that was changed for the duration of the emergency. So typically, if you're a small business person, sole proprietor, independent contractor, somebody in what they call the gig economy now, I've learned that term, Uber drivers, those types of folks, Uber Eats kind of folks that have been laid off, you can qualify for unemployment where you didn't before. So, I bring this up because I was talking with a business owner yesterday, owns his own building, is a barber who's been shut down and trying to decide what to do. And unemployment probably would be the best way for him to go since he now qualifies. He owns his building, doesn't own rent mortgage, and it's based on Kentucky unemployment plus $600. And so $600 is about the average. If you want to keep, you get a percentage of your income if you go on unemployment. And if you want to keep people whole, 100% of their income, we could, Secretary Mnuchin said, was just impossible to reprogram 50 states in the District of Columbia system. So 50,000 is about the average. You would be held harmless. But if you're lower than that, you'll make more money on unemployment. It was just difficult to not go that path and get this done in the timely manner. For almost all businesses, I mean, that's just unique. Almost all businesses, you'll want to do the payroll protection program. And as you see our heroes in the healthcare industry on the front lines being the triage in the healthcare side, the people the folks that just introduce themselves and their colleagues in the communities are going to be the triage for financial. It all runs through our financial institutions, so our banks and credit unions. There was an idea to say, let's have a small business administration do this. Let's have a government agency do this. We just knew that as good as those people are, they would be absolutely overwhelmed. If you were a 10,000 person in line to get your loan with a government agency, that takes a long time to move forward. So it was immediately decided to go through the financial institutions. Almost every small business has a relationship with a banker or their credit union. And so we wanted to do it that way. So what this program, and I'm going to give the gist of it, and then we'll specifics and questions. But the idea is that if you're a small business, you go to your financial and sometimes, Daniel, I know you worked with the legislative branch before. What the legislative branch wants to do and what the executive branch wants to do and what the agencies want to do sometimes conflict. But I can tell you, Senator McConnell, this was drafted in the Senate, our own senator, Secretary Mnuchin for the president worked hand in hand and bipartisan across the aisle to make sure we're all on the same sheet of music. So the way that it's supposed to work, when you put something across the country of 340 million people, sometimes it doesn't go exactly like it's designed. But the idea is if you're a small business, that's defined as less than 500 people. So some pretty good sized businesses qualify for this. But a small business, whether you have one person, 3 or 5, up to 500, you go to your local financial institution that you deal with, it would be if they participate in this, and if not, hopefully if you guys choose not to participate, you can refer them to someone who does, and they can get up to 8 weeks of cash flow, up to 2.5 times their payroll. And as long as they maintain their payroll, so they keep paying their employees. So you go to the bank, you get a loan, you maintain your payroll. And a lot of people, I'm gonna get ahead of myself and say, I'm gonna finish because it's not a loan you have to pay back eventually if this happens correctly. You go to your financial institution, you get a loan that makes you keep your payroll on payroll. You can also pay rent, you can pay interest of a mortgage, and you can pay utilities and operating costs. And then at the end of the 8 weeks, or hopefully it'll be 8 weeks, hopefully we don't have to extend this depending on what happens with the virus, but hopefully you'll sit down and reconcile with your financial institution, and every penny that you spend on payroll and all the cost of payroll. So what you wrote the checks for, what you paid for their benefits, what you paid for healthcare, and your utilities and rent or interest on your mortgage is forgiven. And so the banks will actually sell the loan to the SBA, so the federal government will forgive the banks. So this is an idea to get cash into businesses so they maintain their payroll. And an example I talked to, actually it's a county judge that owns a lot of real estate property. And he's called me, we were talking about this program, and he says, I have every one of my little shopping centers has a hairdresser, and they're all calling me and saying, I can't make my rent payment. And then I told him about this program, and he goes, what? He goes, they can make the rent payment, send them to their financial institution. If they don't have a relationship, if I had a mortgage on a piece of shopping center, I would take the bank that holds that mortgage with me, sit down with all of my clients and say, you can pay your rent, and the government's going to help you do that, and set up this program. And the reason is, if you keep your employees on payroll, you're an employer, and you keep your cash flow for rent and so forth, then your employees can make their mortgage payment, your employees can make their rent payment for their home, so whoever owns so the bank or the financial institution that owns their mortgage is made whole. The people that own their home, that their apartments they rent, are made whole. And then the business can pay their rent, so the person that owns the bigger building can pay their own. So the idea is, if you can put money in the hands, if you continue the payroll moving forward, then everybody can make their payments like they were making before this happened. And that was the big expense of this bill, was to making sure that small businesses can maintain their payroll. Another thing that happened as well is important. And I heard some of you guys talking on the financial institution, sitting down with your customers and saying, okay, this is a temporary thing. You have a solid business. What do we need to do to get you going forward? We've relaxed, and during the emergency, that banks can work with. If you already have a loan that performs, then banks and credit unions can restructure that. Say, all right, pay interest only, defer for 90 days, however you want to structure that with your customer, and not fall into the troubled debt relief program, which typically in normal times, if you got to sit down with a trouble loan, then you've got to report that, and it can become a regulatory nightmare. Those are relaxed for loans that the only reason you're having to restructure or give different terms is because of the coronavirus. So the idea of Congress and the idea of the president is to keep small businesses, even if they're shut down, making their payroll so their employees can make their payments. And because it starts at the bottom, if the employee can't make their payments, then they can't pay their financial institution. Then it just becomes a cascading, could lead to a catastrophe. This way we insert money. And I'll close with this, because I know the questions are coming, and we have the financial institutions here. It is designed to go through your local financial institution to get the money in the hands as quickly as possible. So you guys that are on here and your colleagues have become quite literally the front line and the triage. And I know you guys hopefully will share, because I've had people ask me, well, my financial institution has lobbies closed, access. How do I get access? So we're all going to have to be working together to make that happen. I know y'all got provisions for that. I think some of your clients, or people in generally, not necessarily your businesses, but people I know around here are saying, how do I can't, my financial institution, I can't go see people. So how are you going to accommodate a big influx of all your customers coming forward. So the intent of Congress was to keep people paid. And that's what this program is for. And hopefully that's what we'll focus on. All right, Daniel.
Thanks, Congressman
Guthrie. Congressman Guthrie, we've had, obviously, since we've opened this up to Facebook Live, we've got some questions to follow up on some of your statements. Some folks have asked, what if they don't have full-time employees? Does this include them? Like if they're working, say, out of their house, or another question would be, would this also include a bank that, does it already need to be a small business administration lender for this to apply for?
Okay, two questions. One is, so if you have employees working out of the house, or you're self-employed working out of your house?
Both. They've asked both questions, sir.
Okay, self-employed will now qualify during the emergency time for unemployment, which typically does not happen. So if you're working out of your house, you don't have expenses, you don't own a mortgage or rent, that's probably the best route for you to go. And it'll be based on your income, your average income, the way that you would do it through. So you go to the Kentucky Unemployment Office. I know they're being overwhelmed. So I know here they're doing it by alphabetically by last name. But you would go to your local unemployment office. They would calculate what your unemployment is, and then the federal government will add $600 to that. So that's one way. The other one is if you can absolutely participate in the Paycheck Protection Program. So if you're an individual business owner and you own your business, you're the only employee, then your salary would be part of your payroll. So that qualifies for this as well. And we're trying to make this work by Friday, and there are a lot of details to work through. I know the Treasury Department's doing that. The intent of Congress, I can tell you, is for every financial institution to be able to participate in this, whether you're currently an SBA lender or not. There were provisions for essentially grandfathered everyone in, but there is a process. Treasury is sending guidelines out. If they didn't come out last night, hopefully today, we'll tell our colleague, our guest on this call and their colleagues how to get signed up for the SBA. But the intent is for every FDIC certified lender to participate in the program, whether they're SBA or not.
Great. Thank you, Congressman, for that. Another question we just received, and I'm going to pitch this to Darren Loxton, if you don't mind, Darren. Can the bank restructure a business line of credit to fit the government loan forgiveness criteria?
Business line of credit, I guess we could restructure it as to defer the interest payments, because most line of credits that people have are going to be interest only already. So there's no principle that we can waive, but we can definitely work with them to do complete deferral of the interest payments to push that back. So that's the best way to answer that question. Now, because of the SBA loan does not cover any principal, it will pay that interest. So if we can get them signed up on the PPP program, they can pay that interest and get it through the PPP program. So.
There's another program that's in there, the emergency declaration with the SBA. You can't double dip, like you can't get the paycheck protection so there's an emergency declaration that's not forgiven. So you can get tax credits for your employees' payroll, but you can't use the tax credits and do the PPP. And you guys will have to sit down with your customers and see what works the best. But there are favorable restructuring loan types of issues within that emergency side of the SBA loans. There's two different programs. So you might look at that and have the opportunity to do so under those programs. But I would think for most really small businesses up to, good sized businesses, the paycheck protection should be able to keep their cash flow so that they will be able to not have to go to both programs. But there is another restructuring available. And but if the restructuring is due to what we didn't want to do is somebody that's already in trouble with their loan to all of a sudden get into this emergency and be able to take a trouble loan and use this to, if the business is already in trouble and then they're now in this situation, to use these programs to restructure, because this is taxpayer dollars flowing. The business is already in trouble. Well, what we felt was the intent of this, but there's some ability to do that in the other loan. But the absolute intent was this, where businesses that are having to shut down or lay off or because their customers just dried up, and we have a lot of people that way because of the coronavirus, would be able to maintain their payroll as they move forward. But if that forces some restructuring, there's flexibility in the regs, and there's another SBA program that might be applicable.
Great.
Marilyn, one of the questions we're asked, are they basing the salary payout on the 2018 taxes or the last few months? Which is it?
That's in the P3 program. I have the information here of me to be able to answer snippets of that, but Congressman Guthrie may be better without me specific answer, maybe better to answer that than I am to have to scan. Again,
yeah, it's if you're a business, it's based on your 2019 payroll for the same time period. So if you have to maintain payroll, and the average payroll they look at is from February 15th to June 30th, and they looked at it that way instead of just current month, because some people are seasonal. You have some businesses that may not have any. Think if you're a lawn and garden center, you may not have anybody in your store between February and March, but about now, people will be flooding to get their flowers, tomato plants, and things like that. So it's based on an average of your February 15th to 2019 income, but so that's what the payroll is based on, 2019.
Okay, that answers that.
Okay, next question. Sorry, Bryce. Next question. Shoot this to Dina. I own a small business. Do I contact the bank where I do my checking, or do I contact the bank where I have an SBA loan?
I guess it's going to depend on the relationship that you have. If you've got an SBA loan, you're already working with a personal banker or your banking manager, your loan officer, whatever that relationship is. And so they're already going to be familiar with your business. So from that standpoint, you're going to go with whoever is most familiar. Hopefully your checking and your loan are at the same financial institution, but sometimes that's not the case. But whoever's most familiar with your business arrangement is going to be who you're going to want to work with.
You know, that brings up, I'm going to ask a follow-up question. Josh, I want to pitch this to you. Dina brought up having a relationship with a bank, with a loan officer. You know, my dad taught me there are three really important relationships in your life. First is God, your second is your spouse, and third your banker. And so there may be some folks out there that don't have a relationship with a banker for a variety of reasons, but now they need one. Can you talk about how important it is to have that relationship where you can go to a banker and have a conversation about what's going on?
Oh, absolutely. You know, obviously when you select a banker, it's someone that you have a relationship with. It's a personal relationship with it that knows the ins and outs of your business. You know, they know how that operates. It's got to be someone that you trust. Again, very important to select the right person that's knowledgeable, that is engaged. You know, whether it's a checking account and looking at the operation side, or whether it's borrowing money, again, you just be very selective and make sure you got the right fit. There's a lot of good bankers out there. There's a lot of knowledgeable people. Just be real cognizant of selecting the right person that you feel that you have that trust in and is going to lead you down the right path.
Ray Springsteen, when I ask this, one question is asked, says, I don't have a small business administration loan. Would my business still qualify?
So is there probably a little bit more to that question and understanding what the member or customer situation is, but if there's in particular, if they're looking for some options on an existing loan, probably with any one of us, we'd be able to try to figure out a way to help them through this time period. And so if it was a specific program they're looking for, or if it's an existing loan, I think all of us are really looking for ways to help the community and be able to help people get through this time.
Can I answer some of that?
Yes, please.
The answer is yes, you can still participate. So you are thinking as financial institution guys, and I understand. So business will have existing loans with their financial institution that we've given flexibility through bank regs, There's another SBA emergency kind of loan program that they can look at for existing loans moving forward. This program is wide open to any business 500, the payroll protection. If you got 500 or less employees, you can sit down with, and what we're telling people is, hopefully this is what you want to hear, is what we're telling as they call us, is the first thing you do, you have a relationship. Almost every small business has a relationship with a financial institution. So call your credit union person, your banker, and just say, I'm interested in this. The guidance is coming down. We've sent them even last week, even before the bill passed, just say, hey, this is coming. I want to be in line for this. But if you have no relationship with the SBA at all, you qualify for the payroll protection. And that's the loan forgiveness for cash flow for payroll, for your rent, utilities, and the interest on your mortgage. And if you have to restructure, that's a different story. And you may not be able to restructure if you don't already have an SBA loan. But this SBA payroll protection is available to every small business. So a lot of people don't realize that if you're a physician, because you think of the healthcare workers been on the front line and absolutely in the middle of it, and they are, but you have a lot of medical practice, not necessarily physicians, dental practice that have had to shut down. I know a dermatologist, I'll tell you, he's got shut down. He's kind of helping as a general physician, but his practice is shut down because of trying to save the PP&E. And so law firms that are affected by the coronavirus, this dermatology practice is directly related, because if it wasn't for that, they'd be seeing 100 patients a day. They qualify for this as well. They have employees and they qualify as well. So it's a small business is very loosely defined as essentially any enterprise less than 500 people would qualify. So call your financial institution.
Thanks, Congressman. I want to ask a follow-up. We're asking, having some folks ask for clarification on a couple of topics. Seasonal part-time certainly get counted into that FTE, I believe, if I understand correctly. And then again, if you can walk through the timeline that they're basing this off of for expenses.
Okay. So the payroll is based on February 15th to June 30, 2019. That's now and this is when you sit down with your financial institution. Let's say you have essentially 0 employees on February 15th, and April the 1st, you bring everybody on your garden center. Then you can change that timeline some to make sure that it's fair to your seasonal employees. So that they would qualify as well. So seasonal employees would qualify.
Great.
So there's one other side to that. I'm trying to remember. You had another part of that question, I think. Okay, we'll get to it. Oh.
No, you're good. You're answered.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to add one thing. We're talking about meeting with your bankers and that type of thing. Whereas I'm sure we're all in the same situation where we have a restricted access lobby and operating, through a drive-through. We're meeting with our customers through appointments, phone calls, email, dependent. We have been flexible with trying to get the paperwork to them if they aren't able to get to us. So the restricted access lobby is pretty much that. We're restricting the access, but it's not closed. We're not unavailable. So call your banker, either talk through whatever works best with you to meet with them via phone, or maybe you need to do something like this, what we're doing today. But I think we're all being flexible. I keep saying fluid and evolving, because that's what we're seeing in our day-to-day operations, whether it's internally or whether it's with our customers. So call, make an appointment, and we are working through the social distancing guidelines, taking the cleaning steps that we all are supposed to have been taking for a while now and everything as well. But we're not unavailable from that standpoint. Make those calls and schedule those appointments.
Hey, Daniel, I just remember my point I was going to make a second point. So businesses have called and asked, what if I've already laid people off? If you're a restaurant and you closed a week or two ago and you've already laid people off, you still can qualify for the payroll protection. You probably want to keep your employees on the payroll so you'll get them back. And so you can still qualify. You go to your financial institution, set up the payroll. You have to bring your payroll back and make the payroll. As I said, that's going to be forgiven by the government, so it's not coming in the end out of your pocket. And if it's tipped employees, and you calculate a tip, hopefully they've reported that on their income. But their full income is available. If it's a commission employee, I've had car dealerships call. It's on the average of what they made last year. And if you work purely on commission, that's calculated into and accounted for in this bill.
Daniel, to follow up, if I could do a clarification, I found some information I think maybe give a little bit of clarity to it. On non-seasonal employers for the payroll protection loans through the SBA coming to a lender, the maximum loan for non-seasonal employers 2.5 times the average total monthly payroll costs incurred during the year prior to the loan date. For businesses that were not operational in 2019, it's 2.5 times the average total monthly payroll costs incurred for January, February of 2020. For seasonal employers, it's 2.5 times the average total monthly payments for payroll costs for the 12-month period beginning February 15th of 2019 or March 1st, 2019. Decided upon by the loan recipient and ended in June 30th, 2019. It's very specific what that covers. And I would refer people, I don't think that we've mentioned this, but the SBA's website, sba.gov, and I think /disasters where most of this information shows up. But they've got a lot of really great tools out there for businesses and for financial institutions with these really detailed questions. And I would really encourage folks to utilize that for some of the questions that we're getting, because it's some of it's pretty detailed, and that's the go-to site.
And Marilyn, thank you for that, because that actually follows up a question that Vicki was asking online here. Darren, I want to ask you a quick question. Can you do the PPP and the disaster relief loan from the Small Business Administration for 3.5%?
You can't. That's a lot of people have asked that too. You can get, if you've already applied and got the disaster money, we can refinance that into the PPP program, as my understanding, as of yesterday. And then something I wanted to add, if I could real quick, there is also in the CARES bill, there SBA, if you have an existing 7A or 504 SBA loan, the SBA is going to pay 6 months of your payment, including principal and interest. So if you have SBA already, you need to contact the bank that you have that with and get some information on that, because that's also a huge tool that they put into the CARES Act for those that already have SBA loans on the books now. So,
great. The next question, I know this is probably going to be different for each financial institution based upon your throughput, because as Congressman Guthrie outlined, you're probably going to get a lot of requests, a lot of business. But Ray Springsteen, I want to pose this to you. How quick is the estimated turnaround time from application to approval?
Talking about consumer loans, or we're on business?
Still in the business.
I think the PPP, right? That's what they're most interested in.
Yeah, it is. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't think I'm the best one to answer that question.
Probably not far enough along yet to really know that either. Congressman Guthrie, is there an expected time?
Well, the administration, the president is pushing them to do it by Friday. And those of us who worked in government with these big federal agencies, the fact that they want it out ready to go by Friday is very, very ambitious. Our president is very, very ambitious, and he really wants this to happen quick. Stephen Mnuchin, who's been to Fort Knox, is ready to is pushing it as well. And I don't know if the financial institutions feel like they've gotten the official guidance yet. I know as of yesterday it was still supposed to be coming out, but the question then would be if it goes live Friday or early Monday, how quickly can you turn one of these loans around? That'd be a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I know y'all deal with them, and everything's supposed to be expedited. So let's hope it works like as we designed it and planned.
Just for feedback, we have already had so many customers reach out in anticipation of happening. If this is any indication of the volume, we as financial institutions are certainly going to have a lot of incoming volume. The initial turnaround time, just because of the volume, first of all, we have to get something in place once we get the guidelines and get our internal procedures. Once it gets flowing, I think it will be good. It's just going to be a matter of volume and capacity at that point. Know that we all certainly want to get this underway and the money back in the hands of businesses that then inject it back into the economy through the payroll and other methods that they're going to be utilizing those funds. So I know that's going to be a top priority for all of us, but I don't really think that we have an answer to that question at this point, since we're not anticipating having things moving to us until Friday. And then we will internally have to determine how we're going to roll these out. I have had a preview of app and some general guidelines. It looks not complicated, which is encouraging. But we will have to have an opportunity to get things rolled out to our staff and indication on how we're going to receive and process this information. But it'll be done as quickly as possible. We all want that.
Let me say that those who have experience going through the SBA process, this was great. There were a lot of regulations relaxed by statute in this bill. The idea of passing the CARES Act was getting money in hands as quickly as possible. So I really believe, and I know that our financial services people on this call and their colleagues and the businesses will experience a different level of expediency than would be typically of an SBA loan. And the SBA loan rules there are to protect the taxpayers' dollars. And we had to balance how much regulation you put in place versus getting small businesses cash as quickly as possible, and we balanced it, and it's needed as necessary, and so that was the direction to really relax some of the regulations while the declaration of emergency is in place. So I know a lot of people who listen to this probably have dealt with SBA before, and they have rules for reasons, but we relaxed a lot of them because we have a very dire situation to get money out quicker.
Hey, Ray, I want to bring you back into the discussion, and this is changing the focus just a little bit. But versus you outlined earlier, Abound is one of the largest credit unions in the nation, and you've been very involved in financial literacy and general financial education. How are you leveraging your size and influence turn this crisis into a teaching moment and perhaps highlight or adjust some product offerings?
So I think a couple of things. So one, in just a brief story. So we had every day we're seeing members who they're going to have a 25% auto loan. This happens all the time, right? We see them come in and that auto loan's with someplace else. We're able to refinance that down to 4 or 5%. That turns that amount of money back to that member, that consumer, is $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. In the case in Brandenburg, which happened recently, it was 21% down to 5%, $7,000 in this person's pocket. I think where the teaching comes to this, when's the next time that person's going to put up with the 21% auto loan? Probably never. Right? And this is I think the point about something like this, right? Is now, take a look at these types of things. And I think that's what we're certainly, all of us are trying to do with members, is making sure that when there are these opportunities, there's opportunities to save thousands upon thousands of dollars. I think this experience is something that will change the way people look at how they handle their finances. And I think that's probably one of the biggest opportunities around this. And we are heavily focused on consumers. Right? Over 110,000 members, the vast majority are consumers. I think another part of this is around just the financial education side of it. And this year we have provided financial education for over 1,300 kids in just the communities surrounding Fort Knox. And I think this is where getting a better sense on needs and wants, kind of understanding how savings works. And even for us is making sure, I know others had mentioned this, making sure even at this time when you're trying to make sure you're providing education through distance, let's make sure we're still doing that. We have a team here that's providing some of those tools. But I think that's the biggest opportunity when you think around the teaching moment is we have some control, right? Have some control to be able to make some different decisions on, in particular, loans in this case, and how to manage money a little bit differently.
Thanks, Ray. Josh, some of my buddies that are in real estate are on this and have been asking some questions. Both Corky Morris, Vicki Hannah Grimes have been monitoring us as we've been on this. Your institution partners with some of the largest home builders in the area. Are you seeing any sway in construction of new homes? And do you believe with the stimulus going into the financial system that demand on housing will continue?
You know, that's a good question. And we do partner with a lot of the largest home builders. And I'll tell you, our community is blessed that we've not only got a lot of good builders, our builders are very good business people. And a lot of them learned some things back in 2008 and 2009. So a lot of them are being very cognizant to not overextend. The answer to that question is, you know, are builders still building homes? Absolutely. I've had some conversations with some builders recently that are maybe wanting to had plans to break ground here in the next week or two that have said, you know, let me just hold off. You know, no one thinks that this is going to last forever, but I think there's some fear of the uncertainty as to how long is this going to last. So I think that some builders that may have anticipated starting a project within the next week or two have probably put that off. But the guys that have houses under contract or under construction right now, yes, they're still driving on and are doing those and getting those houses complete. Talking to some of the realtors, you know, I think the phones are still ringing, not like what they were probably 5, 6, 7 weeks ago. Just again, I think everyone is optimistic and positive that we're going to come out of this. But I think at this point, everyone is kind of saying, let's just calm down for a little bit. Let's give it a couple of weeks and see what happens. And then I think everyone fully expects for this thing to kind of pick back up once we get through, you know, where we're at with the coronavirus and the social distancing and so forth like that.
Okay.
Great. Hey, Darren, I want to bring you into the discussion. We just got a question. I want to manipulate this question just a little bit. The exact question is, what about a small business that's in startup phase, doesn't have employees yet? Could that small business get a loan? If they don't qualify, and if I understand the regulations correctly, it's anyone that was in business as of 15 February. But say someone shows up and they went into business 30 February, how would you look at them and possibly consider helping them if they have a viable business plan?
I would direct them to the emergency relief program probably instead of the PPP program because they're not going to have that established payroll yet. So there's not going to be a record for us to be able to go back and figure out what we're going to be able to pay them. The other program obviously is direct through SBA and you go online for that. So I think that's going to be the best bet for them at this point in time.
Okay, great. Makes sense. Thank you for that. I want to switch to Dina for a moment to pick up on a question that Bryce had to Josh. Dina, Magnolia Bank's heavily involved in home mortgage right now. Despite the crisis we're in, some people are asking if right now is the right time to refinance.
Yes, and that's a good question too, because we have always said it's a good time to finance if you're going to save 1% or more on your rate. So, you know, today's market and prices, if you have the opportunity to catch it on a downswing, you might be able to take advantage and get a great rate for a purchase that you've been considering, or even a refinance that maybe didn't make sense before. So it's just like any other market, you want to make the best of any opportunity to take advantage when those discounts are available. The downside to today's market is it might take a little more time to get approval. We had such a boom when the 10-year Treasury initially started its decline toward the first part of March. So our investors are requiring more conditions to close, which can lead to a little bit of a slowdown in that process. But we also believe that once this ends in a few weeks, that boom can be on again.
All right, so I think you've got the next question for Josh.
Daniel, you get that one?
I've got it.
Hey, Josh,
I'll pitch this one to you. I've got a friend that owns a mattress store, and before he had to shut down in March, he was actually having a pretty good month. His theory was people were buying their own safety deposit boxes with this crisis. So is right now a good time to be pulling your money out of the bank? Should you be doing it? Is it a safe place to have your money?
You know, in my opinion, the banks are the safest place to have your money. West Point Bank, I know a lot of the other banks here in the community are very sound. They're very safe. I don't think anyone has any intent to go anywhere. We are encouraging our people to keep money in the bank. Obviously it wouldn't hurt to have a little bit of cash on hand. But in my opinion, it would be one of the worst mistakes and withdraw a substantial amount of money and take it and put it under your mattress. That's not good. That's not smart. And by no means would we recommend anyone do that. So, keep your money, in the banks. They're safe. They're sound. It's the best place for it. I know particulars. We're not going anywhere. We're very safe. We're very sound. So, they are insured by the FDIC. So, absolutely keep your money in the banks.
And I'll add one thing onto that too. As we go to delivery and curbside payments and things like that, electronic, your credit cards, your debit cards, those are the things you're going to have to use. Even Chick-fil-A is posting they're not taking cash at all. So when you think about the method that we're going to these days to actually pay for items, we're having to use those electronic means. So extra cash laying around is just extra risk, like Josh said.
Darren, I want to follow up just a little bit. We've gotten several questions that are coming in on Facebook Live as we talk. And, one of the things people are concerned about what they should do with small business administration loans, what they should do with their home loans, because it being April the 1st, payments are due today. People are talking about, well, this doesn't take effect possibly until Friday is what Congressman Guthrie is saying. And so people are worried. Do you feel like that all these questions are coming in, people should reach out to their banker and start talking to them, carry on a conversation with them, ask them questions, because that's truly what you all want them to do, is to come in or call you all and ask you those specific questions?
Definitely. I want every person out there to feel like they can call their banker and call their financial institution. At this point in time, that's going to be the most crucial. Hopefully we've been armed with some tools that we can help them get through. I've kind of just told, the average person out there and the businesses, I said, look, if your income is not disturbed at this point in time, please continue to do business with, go get your order out from the restaurant that you usually go to. This is the time they need to help. I've heard people say, go buy gift cards from the restaurant to keep a little cash flow. And I had a client the other day that said, he had to shut his shop down, and a lot of his customer base is on an auto charge for his services, and they can't come in. And I asked him, I said, well, do you have to turn those off automatically? He said, well, in good faith, I can't take their money from that. And I said, well, just think of it this way. I said, some of those people, they're going to want to come back to your business in a couple months, and they may not have been affected so far. Their income's still coming in, so they may want to pay you. They may want to be able to help you. They want to keep you in business. So don't just have a knee-jerk reaction. The tools that the U.S. government has given us is hopefully going to keep payroll going for people. And we just really need to come together and say, I'm going to help my hairdresser. I'm going to help. I'm going to go get my food at the drive-thru. I'm still going to do that stuff if I can. If your income's still going, please try and help out the folks that are being affected.
And thank you for all that joined us today. Daniel London, thank you for putting this together, our Deputy County Judge Executive. And, this special broadcast of Hardin County Educational TV for Issues and Insights, and also through Kentucky Heartland, Kenny Rambo and Greg Milby, thank you all for helping us to do this today. And I want to thank all of you all that have sent in questions, that have been watching us on Facebook Live and are going to watch us on Hardin County Education Community TV. Thank you for joining us. Please reach out to your lending institution, talk to them, ask them questions, let them know what your concerns are, because they're concerned as well for you and want to help you. Their goal is to see that you do well. Thank you for joining us. Stay safe, and we'll keep you informed on what's going on in this great community that we call Hardin County. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned to Hardin County Education and Community TV and Kentucky Heartland, where we keep you up to date on all of the current events in Hardin County.